welcome to another edition of State Champs Hang Time. This is the High School Hoops podcast for the state of Michigan. And it's funny, I got ahead of myself last week. I thought it was our fourth. It was really only our third. Right. Felt like our fourth.
Time's flying.
Yeah, now we're definitely into our fourth. And we're excited for, everything that's building this basketball season, both on the boys and girls side. I do want to say right off the bat, Hang Time's presented by Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser. The average family eats pizza 1 day a week. I promise you the men in this room consider it the fifth food group. Fundraise with the fresh flavor of Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser. We made the program so simple. You sell little Hungry Howie's pizza certificates to your customers. That's it. No mess, no storage. You get to set your own selling price. Go to doughraiser.com for details. Hang Time's also brought to you in part by the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan. bcam.org is the web address. Largest coaching association in the country. You'll hear from the Assistant Director, Dan Young, a little later in the show. Also, just want to make sure that you out there, the state's top basketball players, if we have your attention, both male and female, you need to apply for nomination consideration in the Detroit Athletic Club's Male and Female Athlete of the Year Awards. Deadline has been extended to February 15th. Cassius Winston, Kaiser Gondrzak won the award 2 years ago. Last year, we had the great Kiera Fletcher of Warren Cousino High School as a finalist. Kiera, by the way, is at Georgia Tech. She's averaging 24 minutes a game. She's shooting 41%, little over 6 points a game, 4.5 rebounds. Her 28 steals are third best on the team, so a good start for her at the college level. Yellow Jackets, or the Rambling Wreck, they are 13-9 overall, 11th in the ACC. Louisville, Notre Dame, Virginia, 8-1 to lead the ACC conference in women's hoops. So Cody White from Walled Lake Western, who did play basketball.
Yep. Good basketball player, a really good football player, and he just tore it up as a freshman at Michigan State, one of the best freshman campaigns in the history of that Spartan football program.
Yeah, and it really built. It started out just kind of, just making a contribution here and there, and then he just slowly moved himself. He and Lewerke really got on the same page.
I thought Cody White would be good in college. Yeah. I just didn't think he'd be this good this early.
I thought he would be contributing as a junior. I didn't see him coming in, like, hitting the ground running like he did this past fall.
But it helps with his dad's lineage, kind of getting him ready for this level.
No doubt. And,
didn't hit the freshman wall.
Yeah, what's great is they always mention he was Mr. Football, which is always awesome. So, anyway, my point is, go to dacathleteoftheyear.com, apply for the Michigan Male and Female Athlete of the Year Awards. All right, let me introduce the guys, the voices you hear. And by the way, you can watch this as a webcast on our StateChampsNetwork.com website, or you can watch it on our State Champs TV YouTube page. You can also catch clips and some of the whole show on Facebook and Twitter. Just search State Champs Net. Also, you can listen if you just want to hear it on SoundCloud. It's streaming there. So lots of ways that you can.
Now we're on iTunes and Stitcher. Stitcher, which is a podcast app, which I wasn't aware of before last week. I wasn't aware of that. We're on Google Play, so you can find us just about everywhere now.
There's
no excuse not to listen.
That's right. State Champs Hang Time, State Champs Sports in some areas, and you will find us. So once again, let me introduce the guys. Jeff Dullack, Scott Burnstein, TJ Kelley here for another installment. And quickly, guys, just in about a minute, since it's kind of breaking news, by the way, we're filming this and recording this on Tuesday. Normally we do it on Wednesdays, so we have not seen the Tuesday's games yet to really comment on, so we're kind of building into this week, but that's all right. We'll go big picture on some of this stuff. But quick assessment, Blake Griffin to the Pistons.
Going to sell some jerseys.
A lot of sex. I don't know if there's much substance there. It's
so a lot of sizzle, not a lot of steak.
It's sexy. I mean, Blake Griffin is an exciting player in a vacuum.
He's only 28.
But
his knees are about 35.
Yeah, he's
True.
He's about a 35-year-old Antonio McDyess.
You can say that for a lot of guys, though, and he is signed long-term, because if it wasn't long-term, he wouldn't be here. So he's got to be here.
For the time being, it's
do you build a team around Blake Griffin? Can you build a team around a front court of Griffin and Drummond in this day and age?
I mean, that front court probably not. But when you look at with Blake Griffin, it's going to be exciting for a couple of years. But when his contract runs out in 2022 and you're paying him $40 million, you better be ready for kind of a Tigers themed dark ages for a couple of years.
But it's not like they're
already there.
They're not signing a long-term deal to a 38-year-old.
It's not Allen Iverson.
Right, exactly. Like when he came, and even to a certain extent, Chris Paul, the reason Clippers, because he's definitely at the end of his years. He's 38, So I think for the fact that he is an all-star, 5-time all-star, You know, you need stars. You cannot just tank and think that you are going to build. What has that done for Phoenix? What has that done for Philadelphia, who maybe now are better, but
It took a long time for the
76ers.
What's that?
I love Philly. I'm staying out of that one. I think Philly's on the trajectory to be a top 2 or 3 team in the East in the next couple of years.
Okay, but how long has that taken them?
10 years.
So do you
15,
want 10 years of just the bottom dweller to finally be relevant?
You can't
and
argue.
let's hope Embiid can stay healthy.
Right.
He's another issue.
You can't argue that the trade itself, I think it's a step forward. I just think it's a baby step.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to really move the needle in terms of the team. It might move the needle in terms of bringing some fans out to LCA.
Okay.
Get to sell Blake Griffin jerseys.
Right.
Blake Griffin's great in the open court. He's exciting. He's one of the best dunkers the NBA's seen in a long time. But again, I don't know what that does for your bottom line in terms of wins and losses.
And here's the last thing I'll say. Number one, I'm an LA guy, right, from LA, so I like star power. It helps. They got to fill those seats.
Yep.
I think he can do that. It is the Eastern Conference, which is good. He is now out of that situation.
Yeah.
And what if next year LeBron goes west?
He will.
Oh, yeah.
I expect that
to the
happen.
Clippers.
Okay, so if that happens, I would say the East is a little more open than it was previously.
Yeah, but do you see Blake?
And look, we're also protected. The top 4 picks are protected in what they gave up. So
I know.
should he get hurt and they tank and they fall to the bottom, well, the top 4 picks are protected.
Right. See, one thing that stands out to me with this,
And that's a stand system, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when he had success in Orlando, he had, Howard and another 4 that was good.
yeah. So I've
Jameer Nelson.
That's the way he likes to play.
I've got a buddy who used to work in an NBA front office.
And I'm playing devil's advocate here
Right.
because I've heard so much hate today.
Yeah.
I just want to kind of spin it the other way a little bit.
With a
It's not
smile.
it's not the end of the world. I mean, I don't think it's the worst thing that's ever
Right.
happened to the franchise. I just don't know if it's
Wow.
really.
The worst thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people.
I mean,
on
what they
social
give up.
media that are kind of going
Avery
crazy.
Bradley.
I know,
saying,
but what did they give up?
Tobias Harris, who's
Whose
not
contract's
a primary
expiring,
player.
wasn't
Yeah.
going to come back. He's
Right.
okay. He's a decent player.
I mean, they gave up
Avery
Boban.
Bradley, his contract's
Probably gone.
expiring. He would have been gone.
They gave up Boban.
Oh, yeah,
That's
exactly.
That's like my hero.
The 7'3" caveman.
Right.
Yeah, he's gone.
Makes Big Haas over at Purdue look like
Yeah.
like you could do flipping like a
Now,
Walunda.
what it does say is obviously Reggie Jackson has to get healthy. Ish Smith is not going to take them to the next level by any means, but he's a serviceable backup. He's quick up and down the court. They did not have to get rid of their kind of 2 guys that they have to hope come through, Kennard and
If you're a believer in Kennard, and
Kennard's
Stanley
your
Johnson,
starter now. I mean,
Stanley Johnson.
And Stanley Johnson.
He's going to probably
Who's
start
played
with
better.
with him-
He's
he
played
pulled.
better. He's finally starting to go to the hoop and not trying to settle for just the
he
outside
can't
shot.
shoot.
Right. Well, he's going to have a little more space now, though, to do some things with Blake and Andre.
one question mark I have with Griffin is the attitude thing. Is he going to be able to come in here and be a guy that's in the locker room, that's energizing the locker room, or is he going to be a guy if things start to go in a?
Is he going to be Dwight Howard when he went to the Lakers?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
just a total cancer.
I just don't know if he has the capacity as a leader to come in here and turn things around. I think he's one of those guys that, in that regard, could be more of a complementary piece. But we're kind of looking at him here to be a linchpin.
Right.
I don't know if he's got that in
His
him.
game's getting better though. He can shoot better.
Yeah.
He's averaging 22.
He's 22
a game.
and 8, 22 points,
is
8
he
boards.
going to have that mid-range J open? I would say yes. In this style, I think that happens.
I'm interested to see Drummond and Blake on the court at the same time.
Yeah.
Just to see how that happens, just to see their chemistry. And who knows? Does this turn into one of the best front quarters in the
How
NBA?
long is it going to be just a point guard driven league right now? We're in a cycle. We know that.
Yeah.
Is this to stay?
A couple of years. I think you're looking at more of a versatility type
Yeah, but
situation, like Draymond Green, who can bring the ball up the court.
Yeah.
You're not going to rely on just point guards.
We're going
in the near
into
future.
we're going into a point right now in basketball. I think across the board, where they're talking about high school all the way to the pros, where we're heading towards total positionless basketball.
Brandon Johns.
The
for
5
instance, who
can do the
bring
one, the
ball up
one can play the 5.
Right.
And the Pistons, as they're built right now, are a very old school archetype.
But Blake is versatile.
Yes,
You
Blake
know,
he doesn't pop them from 3.
yeah,
He's
much
doing that
improved.
now. He's much
I'm
improved.
not saying that he can't shoot. I'm just saying he's not a consistent 3-point threat.
Yeah, and he's more of a power forward. I don't think anybody's ever confused him with being a wing or a small forward.
But he knows he's going to have to adjust and have to be a better shooter just to stay on the court. He can't just be powering up all day long. He'll be hurt.
You got to do that
he won't be able to play
as you get older.
Right.
You know, your game has to evolve.
Right.
You know? I mean, there's a reason why Sean Kemp was like one of the best players, but after a while, you know, he just wasn't able to shoot, you know.
Right. And guys like Kobe, who used to just drive, and Michael, you know, not to compare them, obviously, but they became, you know, shooters. They became mid-range Jays.
What was so great about Jordan's career is that he had, you know, the first half of his career, he was the high flyer.
Right. You could say that about
on
Kobe
anybody.
Too. You could say that about Kobe too.
Then he developed one of the greatest turnaround jump shots of all time.
Right. Kobe's
and a
follow-away was the same thing. It was the same.
It was patterned after Jordan's.
Well, yeah.
More than anything, what this trade does for the Pistons is exactly what it's doing in this room right now. When was the last time that we talked about
them?
Yeah.
Right.
When was the last time we said anything about the Pistons the last 3 years?
Exactly. And you can't
Jackson
depend on the draft. It is still a crapshoot with guys who come in. How many number ones, you know, and that have become game changers? It doesn't happen.
Kwame Brown.
I mean, you know, I'm just saying, you can't. There are second-round guys, you know. You've got to be able to draft well, and you just never know how it's going to be. This guy's a bona fide star.
Yep.
You know, granted, there are some issues in terms of injuries and things of that nature, but nobody's really doubted his talent, correct?
No, I mean,
do you make five All-Star games if you're an untalented player?
No, like I said, he's a very exciting player.
Jumping over keys.
That's good.
I mean, there's no question. So in that regard, that's great. That moves the needle in that.
And can't we just have some fun at the new LCA, some excitement, some high flying? We're not going to win the title this year, but it can be a lot more fun to be there.
I mean, either there or with hockey. You know, the Russian 5 isn't walking through that door.
Exactly.
I just don't know if he's a winner.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I think he's a step above Dwight Howard because I consider Dwight Howard as a losing type player. I think Blake Griffin's above Dwight Howard, but we'll see how much further above.
Oh, yeah. Dwight Howard, I think, has just been a complete and total bust.
As good as Tobias,
as good as he was in the beginning. I mean, his second half is
as good as Tobias Harris was, and I think he had I was really impressed by when he came here and watching him as a basketball player. I really enjoyed his game. I'm more of a purist.
I understand.
Tobias Harris wasn't putting fannies in seats,
and he wasn't going to move the needle.
Nobody was going to watch.
They were going to be either
Tobias Harris,
8th seed, 7th at
people
best.
will go watch Blake Griffin.
You say somebody who's got a jersey on, a Tobias Harris jersey on in 10 years, somebody's going to say Harris Pistons.
Who?
Right.
Like, what kind of
Harris? Yeah.
Was it Manny Harris?
Yeah. And if it does work, you know, then really, if let's say things really take off, which could happen, then wow, I mean, they could really climb the seed, you know, in terms of where they could be positioned for,
or at least 4 or 5 or something like that. If they can get there next year, then it's a win.
Dude. Are you kidding?
My buddy,
home advantage for a playoff round.
My buddy who used to work in an NBA front office, you know, he saw something on Twitter. He took it to one of the people he used to work with and said, best case scenario with Blake Griffin is coming to Detroit will make him focus. He won't have to worry about all the other stuff that's going on around him in L.A. He's just going to focus on basketball and basketball only in Detroit.
The curse.
And the owner of the Clippers is a Detroit Country Day alum.
That's right, Steve Ballmer.
There we go. All right, so we got that out of our system.
Nice
I know
transition.
this podcast is always going to run long. It's notorious, but I just wanted to throw that out because it was so fresh and it gets people talking, and it's good to have. You know, we'll see how he turns out, but it's good to have some star power.
It's been way
back
too
in
long
Detroit.
since basketball's been exciting.
That's right. I mean, you know, this is a town that if it has a great pro team, and you saw it just a decade and a half ago, this place goes crazy. They love their basketball, and they're ready for it. So we'll see.
Yep.
Jury's out, Scott. We'll find out. We'll see.
I'm not completely dismissing it. I'm just saying I don't expect this to all of a sudden vault the Pistons to the top of the East.
I don't think anyone is saying that. But we'll see. I think they're gonna. I think when this podcast airs on Thursday will be the first game.
He opens on. He comes his debut in a Pistons uniform is
at
Thursday.
Home. And I think it's who's in town?
Memphis.
Memphis.
And 4 people would have been at that Memphis game without Blake Griffin.
Right.
For what it's worth.
Yeah.
I'm rounding up.
All right, let's get into the Week 9 rankings, which are hot off the presses, courtesy TJ Kelley, our state champs insider. And Super 10 looks like it's pretty similar at the top. Although at the time of recording this, we had a big matchup with Hazel Park and Clarkston tonight.
Yeah, that's good. That battle
and
right
this
there.
Is Tuesday I'm talking about.
And it's at Hazel Park.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
that's big.
Hey, I'll just say, if you're going to this game or
get there in 2 hours
yeah,
early.
you probably want to be there, by the halftime of the JV game. And there are also some other great games that are going on.
Parking is limited around that high
That's
school.
an understatement.
Yes, yeah. You might have to be parking at Green Lantern or something.
It's like a
that
McDonald's.
Madison
It's like a McDonald's parking lot.
Yeah, just flag someone down in their driveway, see if you can use it. But yeah.
Right. Might have to take an Uber or something like that.
Yes, an Uber, yes.
9 Mile and Jana or whatever. But yeah, it's gonna be a heck of a game.
Still undefeated. In fact, looking at the top 5 in your Super 10, they are all undefeated.
Skyline is rolling. They don't play as tough of a league schedule as Hazel Park. I think that one of the things where Hazel Park and Ann Arbor Skyline, Hazel Park is new to the league. They haven't really built that rivalry where Ann Arbor Huron has a rivalry, or Skyline has a rivalry with Ann Arbor Huron, with Pioneer. And they're really going to
even Ypsilanti,
and even Ypsilanti. I mean, you could say Chelsea. Even go. I've watched games at Tempest, Medford, and that's a tough place to play. Mm-hmm. The Kicking Mules, right. And so with Hazel Park, if Hazel Park wins this game and they want to, and they beat Clarkston, I think that they're deserving of the #1 team, just because they beat half of the PSL. Now they beat Troy, who just got bumped out of the Class A, the Super 10. Then you add in a nice win with
Troy handily. Mm-hmm. Me and TJ were both there last week.
Yeah, I mean it was close. It was close to the half. Troy's still without Jason Dietz. The thing that was most impressive about Hazel Park
was without
David Hearns. And that's their other point guard.
And he'll be back for Tuesday's game.
The thing that's when it comes to Hazel Park, and you look at Carl Bow and David Hearns, this is meant in the best, most positive way possible. Those two are dogs. They get after it. They will hound you.
They all
on
are.
defense.
The entire 7-8 man rotation. They play.
I love that style.
They play so rugged and so they're as tough as nails.
Mm-hmm.
They don't back down from a single thing.
Right. It's going to be interesting because that mentality going up against a guy like Foster Lawyer, they're not intimidated by Foster Lawyer. Can they kind of bother him enough to turn him over a couple of times? To maybe get him in foul trouble because they're aggressive guards offensively.
Taylor Curry, the big guy for Clarkston's going to have a pretty significant outing, in my opinion, if Clarkston's going to come out of this game with a victory.
C.J. Robinson defensively.
He had 29-10, I think, against West Bloomfield, and was a big difference maker in Clarkston's victory over the Lakers last week at home. I'm gonna, in my opinion, if I'm projecting, I'm gonna need another performance like that if Clarkston's going to come out of this game.
I think he's too good of a player not to. I mean, kid's going to Wisconsin,
right?
He's too good not to be utilized.
Not only is he going to Wisconsin, he reclassified.
Yeah, because Hazel Park,
he reclassified.
And he's still going to Wisconsin.
Yeah, I just talked with. I just saw one of the Wisconsin coaches on Sunday in Cleveland, and they're going to redshirt him when he gets there. But still, he's a really, really good high school player.
He's very fundamentally sound. Yeah. Hazel Park doesn't have any traditional bigs.
Right.
They got some guys that play. They
play above the rim. Play above the rim.
Bigger than what they are.
They had a big last year. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Lafayette.
Yeah, Christian Lafayette, but I don't think that Christian Lafayette. He was definitely.
He doesn't hold a candle. Doesn't hold a candle to Taylor Curry.
No, well, absolutely not.
Well, we'll continue this debate next week because the game's already been played. If you're listening to this podcast, and you already know how it turned out, so we'll kind of exactly. So we'll kind of play it out. But you did in Class A, if we're looking at just the specific Class A rankings, did have Holland West Ottawa jump in there. You got them at number 8.
Yeah, they lost early in the season. And since then, they lost to Godwin Heights early in the year, and Godwin's been rolling since then. Maybe they should have been in the top 10 a little bit earlier. One thing I had to look at was Godwin, and as we have another question about Godwin later on, I'll get to that. I just look for teams to go outside of their comfort zone and stuff like that when they're playing. Muskegon goes and plays at Loyola last week,
right?
And I think that's huge. I just want to see some of the Grand Rapids teams play outside of the 616. The same thing can be said for, if you're in East Lansing. I want to see you play outside of the 517. And if you're only playing Detroit area teams and you're from Detroit, and you were supposed to be this powerhouse, then I need to see that. I look forward to go take a trip up to Saginaw or Arthur Hill, and why they're not having great seasons. All right, we'll go play Beecher or something like that. Right. But just get out of your comfort zone. Go see some different refs.
Carmen Ainsworth.
Yeah. Cameron Ainsworth is rolling. I mean, if you look at some of the teams that have only lost like a few games, Wayne Memorial has lost to 3 teams that have 2 combined losses.
Right.
Excuse me, 1 combined loss.
Yeah.
I mean that's really tough. It's tough to go about saying. And so there are a lot of guys or a lot of teams that are deserved to be in the top 10. They're just on the cusp and are kind of pushing that. Detroit Renaissance is one of those teams that's playing really well. When you look at them beating Cass Tech and then them beating Renaissance, we talked about that last week. And then they get to play at Cass later on this week. But Cass also has some opportunity to vindicate some of their losses to Henry Ford and to Renaissance.
The big thing with Howland West Ottawa is the fact that they might be for real now. You looked at last year, and they came out of nowhere, at least in my eyes. Mm-hmm. I think they were like 23-2 or something like that before they lost on a buzzer beater to Grand Rapids Christian in the regional final. And Grand Rapids Christian obviously went to the state championship game. Howland West Ottawa is not going anywhere. They're for real now, and I think an 8-1 start after a 23-2 season last year, maybe 23-3. This team's for real. And
did they beat Muskegon last year?
I believe so. I believe they beat them in the district final.
Yeah, so I mean they're tough, and Tyler Bozeman was one of the I specialize in basketball,
right.
But from what I've heard, he's one of the better all around athletes in the state. Mm-hmm. And then you throw in a guy like Drew Pitterson who can really knock down jumpers. These guys know what they can do, and if you've got a group of guys, it's like walking into a court or something like that. You're back in the 20th century when they're going out there and playing in parks and stuff like that, and you bring your group of guys, and you know what? Hey, we know what we all can do,
right?
And I think that's what West Ottawa does. They play within themselves. They're well coached, and as long as you have that structure on the high school level, and of course with good guard play, you can wind up beating anybody.
Yeah.
Flipping over to Class C, you've got St. Mary Catholic Central, number 1.
Yeah, Coach Wyndham's got him rolling. C.J. Hutt is one of the he's going to go to Air Force. He's going to redshirt for that year, but he's 6'8" and he's skilled. He's mobile. He's productive. I like guys that are scoring 25 points and grabbing 15 boards and getting 5 or 6 blocks a game. And then when you add in a couple of other guards who are also playing well, I mean that speaks well. I'm talking about the Kelley kid who's down there. So they're playing well and they're deserved to get the number 1 ranking.
Right. Yeah. I mean, C.J. Hutt's what's going to make that team go. If he has an off game, I feel like SMCC is going to have an off game. If he has non-game, so I think when it comes to tournament time, he's going to take them as far as they go.
I've been high on him since the summer. I saw him for a second this summer, and I think he is in the center, no pun intended, of a trend in the Michigan 2018 class. We got some really nice bigs.
Yeah. For sure.
You like Flint Beecher's upswing now?
Yeah, they were young. They've got to learn that Malik Ellison is on that team anymore to really lead them. I was talking with somebody yesterday, and they mentioned the presence of LeVan Blake. If you got 6'7" in a rim protector, I know I've got somebody that's got my back if he gets right by me. Well, they don't have that this year, and so everybody's got to learn to play on as a cohesive unit. And I think a lot of that starts on the defensive end. Because all of a sudden you don't have that shot blocker, which is what Monroe St. Mary's has. So how far they'll be able to advance. I think that'll have to do a lot with how much they're ready to mature. And Mike Williams already knows what it takes to really get there. Is Beecher at the point maybe where I thought that they were when Monty Morris was a freshman? When they didn't make the finals, and for the first time, now it seems like they've just been living in the finals and stuff like that, or the semifinals. So I think that they were trending not to make that move or make a long run, and now I think that they can do some things and at least get to the semifinals.
Annual March residency at the Breslin Center.
Right. Yeah. Yes, they do. They've got a 20% off coupon that they just use everybody, and it's laminated.
It's like Britney Spears in Las Vegas.
Frequent hotel. Yeah, exactly. No doubt. All right, well then, here's what we'll do. We're going to wrap this segment because we're super long. Yep. It's all good though. We're going to get into next week's PSL playoffs, which is obviously going to be pretty spectacular. I think if the way things are playing out. Obviously, we'll see what happens this week, some key games this week. I know if you watch State Champs this Sunday at 9, you'll be able to see the Detroit Henry Ford at Cass Tech game that takes place Tuesday afternoon. So we do not know the outcome of that one yet it should be pretty high flying. Yeah. So that is our segment next. So stay with us here on State Champs Hang Time.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's. Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for one medium pizza at participating locations.
We've been doing this fundraiser for about 4 years, and it's the easiest and best and most profitable fundraiser they have in Michigan.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
All right, State Champs Hang Time continues. We get into our second segment of this week, show 4, and want to talk about next week's PSL playoffs. So off the bat, we don't have the brackets yet. We should get them on Friday, if not sooner, but definitely by Friday. I'm sure they'll be out. They got to have the schedule set, and it's always interesting how they lay it all out. But bottom line, who are the teams to beat going in?
I mean, my pick is East English. I think anytime you have a guy like David DeJulius and some, contributing, the supporting cast is really coming along right now. I think East English is going to be a tough team to beat, but then you got Cass and King, and it's about as deep as it's been, at least in my time covering the PSL.
David DeJulius is a triple D special. Dynamic, dazzling, and dominant.
And that's usually what wins when it comes to the PSL playoffs, especially.
I've done such a
your PT players got to show up.
Right. I've done such a 180 on him. I'm not a huge fan of 6-foot guards that aren't true points. Yep. In this day and age, if you're 6 foot, I want you to be. Yeah, you can score, but David DeJulius is not a true point. And I saw him a couple times as a sophomore and junior, and I really liked him. Mm-hmm. But I've just fallen in love with the David DeJulius senior year at EEV. He is the definition of a mad bomber. Quickest release that I've seen of a player in a long time. Yeah. Pull up. Once he gets across half court, he's within his range, and he can get on a roll. And when I'm talking about, 5, 6, 7 in a row, nothing but net, not touching any rim. Right. Just the bottom of the net.
And is that just perfect for what John Beeline wants to do at Michigan?
I mean, if you could shoot the ball. At the end of the day.
Right, he needs.
Wow, is he,
there are a lot of similarities with a Derek Walton. Derek Walton had to score a lot when he was in high school. Yeah. And the guy's doing all right. He's in the league right now.
But Walton was still more of a true point than Double D is.
Oh, I also think that sometimes you have to look at the personnel that's around with East English. And one thing with Dave is, hey, I'm accepting about putting the weight of the shoulders on my shoulder, on the weight of the team on my back.
Yeah, and a higher level than what Walton was playing.
Let me contradict myself though for a second. At the end of that Clarkston game over break, when they were sending 2-3 guys at him, he was looking to find his teammates, do a couple of real nice passes down on the post to get Xavion Godwin free for one was a beautiful pass that ended up with a jam, and DeJulius just he's living in the zone right now.
Yeah. And Tariq Shepard's a pretty good player as well. They got some other guys. Jay Sean Moore is one of the better sophomores, and probably going to be talking about him, over the course of time. And if he's a Mr. Basketball candidate in 2020, I'll tell you right now, don't be surprised.
I'm still, in terms of if I had to pick right now my front runner, I'm still going to go with the defending champs, Cass Tech. Mm-hmm. I love what Steve Hall's come in and brought to his alma mater. Mm-hmm. It was a perfect fit. Steve coming back from the college ranks, and Steve was a Mr. Basketball candidate. I believe he was in the top 10.
Yep, I think he finished number 8.
Whatever. It was back then. 8th. Back then, you had like 10 candidates. Back in '88, ended up playing at, I believe, Virginia Tech and Washington.
Started off at Washington, and I think he went to Virginia Tech.
And he is just a class individual, a great tactician, a great mentor, and has just really brought that program to a different level, in my opinion.
Who do you like, TJ?
I do like Cass. I'm not sold that there is a front runner. I think that there's a dark horse.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think Detroit Henry Ford is one of those, because they know what they do. We've talked about this before in the show. They know what they do. They don't have anybody that's really a standout. They do have Anthony Roberts, who's going to Bryant, who's a 6'3" guard, who might be that guy that can get them over the hump because they don't really have it. He provides that go-to scoring that they need, or let's say that pretty much all teams need. And if you can get that from the guard position, then that's only one of the things that's going to catapult you, to possibly a state championship in speaking about Henry Ford. So I do like what they do. I'm not sure that Renaissance, even though they've been playing well, I'm not sure that they have the guard play that can carry them. I wish we were talking about DEPSA. I think that we were doing this in early to mid-December, that we are talking about DEPSA. But DEPSA has struggled so much; they haven't won a game in the league, and so I think right now it's between Cass and between East English Village. I think with Henry Ford, maybe King.
I think King and Marcus Gibbs. The more and more comfortable he gets,
transfer from Cass Tech.
Yes.
Yep. The more and more comfortable he gets, I think the bigger difference maker he can make. So if he's kind of fully, antiquated or acclimated, I should say, with his surroundings there, he could be a difference maker for King. Another guy to watch for Henry Ford is Deonte Ulmer. He dropped, I think, 30. Went over Henry Ford Academy.
Did you hit the game
over the weekend?
Yeah, and I think sorry about that. Renaissance wound up hitting the game-winning shot when they played Henry Ford.
Right.
At the buzzer. But I do like Ulmer.
Henry Ford Academy is who Detroit Henry Ford beat.
Okay, all right.
Ulmer dropped
Man, we gotta get that school down in Midtown or something like that. Travion Williams School. Let's start calling them Travion Williams School.
There's 3 Henry Fords, not including the one out in Utica. There's 4.
Yeah, overdoing it. Getting their money's worth. Posthumously getting their money's worth.
Yeah.
I love the Cass Tech's point guard, sophomore Tyson Acuff.
Yeah,
just one of these guys that I think is, by the time he's a senior, is going to be one of the true powerhouse backcourt gems in the PSL and all of Metro Detroit. And he's making that team go right now and helping offset the loss of Marcus Gibbs. Mm-hmm. And if Marcus Gibbs was on that lineup, I would be championing Cass Tech for a. I still think they can make a run, but with Marcus Gibbs, I thought they could have challenged for a state championship. Maybe they still can.
And keep an eye on Pershing. Pershing's a team that's has some good wins in the PSL East.
Love DeJuan Seals.
Yeah, that's the guy I was going to bring up. I think he's a difference maker in some of these games where if he's able to take over a game, they could knock off a Henry Ford, a King, maybe not quite a Cass or East English in my book, but. Who knows?
I look at Ron Hill. Ron Hill's their senior point guard. I mean, he's been on varsity for 4 years. Where Ron Hill goes, I think that they go. I think what you're going to get with DeJuan Seal every game. He's going to play hard. He's going to get you some points. If his jumper's not working, then he's going to go to the basket and change it up a little bit. They also have Charles Brown, who's 6'7", who can knock down some jumpers. Right. But Ron Hill's the one that's going to get everybody the ball. He's the one that's going to get their big fella Johnny Davis involved. Mm-hmm. I know that he's found his brother Pierre Hill in the corners, and he's starting to become more of a reliable shooter. So I think that's important. We've talked about so many senior guards or senior players, that have carried their teams. So much of it is the younger guys, how they develop and how they wind up maturing, and with the roles that they're ready to assume. Much like we were talking about with Beecher, with those guys. And so, kind of a wild card. What you don't know what you're going to get with some of the younger guys. But yeah, going back to Pershing, I do like them. They're kind of a scary team. I think that they're going to be more dangerous when they get to the state playoffs than they are in the city playoffs.
I would agree with that.
Because of the class differential.
Yeah, they get to go to Warren Collegiate, and where they've got Warren Lincoln and Warren Collegiate, and probably like Centerline or something like that. But they're, and then they'll have to move on, but their regional is going to be the big one when they'll probably meet up with Loyola and DEPSA and Pershing, and hopefully, I think they're playing in Loyola's gym too. So
that's the host in the regional.
So for the 7:00 game, you might want to make sure that you're there by 5.
Whenever I go in, I'm gonna date myself a little bit. Whenever I go into that gym in Loyola, I think of the first scene in the movie Rocky, where he's fighting in this like old converted church
without the smoke.
Yeah, and you go into that gym in Loyola, and it's something from a different era.
Right.
You're literally playing like where there used to be church pews.
Yep.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, without a doubt.
That's kind of cool. So, all right, well, we'll find out. No doubt it's going to be an exciting tournament, talking about the Detroit Public School League tournament that takes place next week. If you're a high school basketball fan, do yourself a favor, check it out. Of course, the championship will take place at Callahan Hall, and that will be when?
I want to say it's usually right around Valentine's Day. Okay. So maybe February 16th or something like that. And I'm not sure that they're not going to play it the university at. You said they're going to play at Callahan Hall.
Oh, they usually do. I would assume.
They're going to play at Callahan Hall.
That's okay. That's what the LCA or something.
Hey, that'd be great. If we can ever get to that,
it'd be very cool.
Yeah, the problem is you'll be paying more for hot dogs than you are for tickets.
Right.
Exactly.
And $30 for parking.
There will be a bigger turnout than the Pistons games pre-Blake Griffin.
There would be. I mean, literally, there would be.
All right, so how do you feel about it? If you want to reach out to us, you can comment on Facebook, on Twitter, talk about what you feel maybe are some of the best PSL teams or maybe some dark horse teams you think might make a run, or just want to weigh in on who you think is going to be number one and maybe who will make a run beyond the tournament and into the state tournament. So that is a tease into our mailbag segment, in which we'll answer a couple of the questions that you guys reached out last week. We'll get to that in two segments. Next, we're going to have Dan Young from BCAM here, and we're going to talk about some of the top teams and stuff that's happening. We'll catch up with him. So stay with us. Hang time. We'll be right back.
Today, we'd like to talk about the basketball rules point of emphasis for this season. Nationally, there is a concern about lack of enforcement for intentional fouls, especially at the end of the game. An intentional foul is contact that neutralizes an opponent's obvious advantage. Contact is not a clear attempt to play the ball, or when contact is an intentional foul, it is not solely judged on the severity of the act. Intentional fouls are either strategic to stop the clock or otherwise tactically done against an opponent. The foul could be innocent in severity or excessive in intensity and force. Regardless, they are all intentional fouls and should be called as such. To learn more about basketball rules and point of emphasis for this season, please visit the MHSAA website.
All right, welcome back to Hang Time. The podcast continues. DY, Dan Young, BCAM in the house. This is where we talk about what's happening with teams, players, and everything that and coaches.
Because, you got it.
It's the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan. So what we kind of teased on TV, just kind of gave a little taste when you watched the show this Sunday. State Champs, Sunday at 9 a.m., Fox Sports Detroit, is with the tournament starting in about 3 weeks, which is my birthday, February 26th. All right. It's
going to be
25 years old.
Let's go.
At least. Yeah, right. So Class A and B. We're going to talk about top teams. Girls basketball. Let's give the girls some love here. It's pretty clear right now that three have risen to the top. Saginaw Heritage, East Kentwood, who was a finalist last year, and East Lansing. They were all unbeaten coming into this week. And, lots of talent on those three particular squads, and they're playing like it.
Saginaw Heritage, coached by Vonnie DeLong, who, by the way, was a great player in her day, has Jesse Bicknell going to Detroit Mercy and Mo Joyner, who's a 5'9" guard. They're very athletic and long. Like we talked about on the show, these teams are very versatile, athletic, can guard multiple positions, are not one-dimensional at all, and I think that's the strength of this Class A group heading into the tournament. As you go to play these three, East Kentwood, East Lansing, Saginaw Heritage, and then, some others, Marion and Ann Arbor Huron, Howell, Heartland. Lots of athletic, well-coached teams and players, that are going to be very difficult to guard. Can post, can drive it, can do lots of things, can switch defenses, switch players. That's the strength of this group.
Tom Markowski does our rankings, and he feels the real surprise this year is Ann Arbor Huron and what they've been able to do, and it largely, he believes, is from their brand-new coach.
Walid Samaha coached the Huron boys for many, many years, had great teams, got to the state championship one time, and then last year, he's worked for the Ann Arbor schools.
Yeah.
Last year worked for Beeline staff at U of M, and then really missed coaching. Wasn't getting out of it to coach the girls at Huron, but all of a sudden the job opened, and he's working in the district again. And they asked him, hey, do you want to do it? And here we are. He's a very good coach. And they only had 2 returning key players from a year ago on a very good team. And I think they've only lost 1 or 2 games. So he's a proven guy, fundamentals, defense, great chemistry, teaching team, those types of things.
And that's where it goes,
what it's all about.
Especially in girls basketball, right? You get them to buy in defensively, man, you've got half of it figured out.
Don't turn it over.
Yeah.
And play D and rebound, and you can be in games.
Yeah, so in every game.
He does a great job. He's an awesome coach.
Right. As we turn over to Class B, we had a matchup of which you could see highlights this Sunday on State Champs, and we could tell you, because it's no secret, that Williamston and East Lansing did get together this week. Williamston fell to East Lansing. However, and that's their first loss of the season. There's no shame in losing to East Lansing, and that's a good matchup for Williamston as they prepare for playoffs, which will be coming up in less than a month. Detroit Country Day, really the cream of the crop again this season in Class B?
You know what? They're the team to beat, period. Someone's going to knock them off. They're the best team in that class. It's disappointing about Williamston, obviously losing Maddie Waters, awesome player, very deserving. Pete Cool coaches Williamston, and they have a great group. I saw him this summer, and they are he's a really good coach. And so losing her, they're still, they've got a great schedule. They just played East Lansing, and that's what you want to do to get ready in the state tournament. But it's Country Day's thing. Someone's got to knock them off. Frank Orlando, obviously we know he's a Hall of Famer, and somebody's got to try to get him because they're the best group.
Right. Excuse me. Tom believes that there are about 3 dark horse contenders in Class B: South Christian, Hamilton, Freeland, all those West Side teams.
Yep, and Kingsley's also 12-0. Kim Legge coaches Grand Rapids South Christian. They're playing a tough schedule. Their only 2 losses are to East Kentwood and Caledonia. Mm-hmm. So, that's what it's all about. Dan Van Eckel coaches Hamilton, and Tom Zielinski coaches Freeland. Matt Schellek coaches Kingsley. All those teams are tough, really tough, and have been in those big games a year ago. And that's why I think Tom is saying, they're scrappy, they've been there, and those are the type of teams that can knock off a Country Day, a Williamston, or whoever, and make a run. Is an experienced group, that's been through the wars before.
Right. Freeland mentioning that lost to in the semis to Ypsilanti Arbor Prep last season by 8 points. They have 2 losses this season, both to unbeaten Class A teams in Heritage and Bay City Western at the time.
Right. I mean, they went,
they're hungry.
If you lose by 8 at the end of the year, we all know that could go either way.
At the Breslin.
That could go either way.
Right.
So if they've got great chemistry and somebody else might be slipping and not maybe working as hard as they should be, then that's how you can get them.
You get a chance to, being a coach, see the girls' basketball. What do you think the state of girls' basketball in Michigan is right now in terms of talent and in terms of kind of competition throughout?
I've coached boys forever.
Right.
And I've been coaching girls, but I've been close with Bob Bloom and Fred Thoman and Brian Samolsky, who have been on the girls' side. And in talking to McCabe and Markowski, and just the feeling is that a lot of athletic girls are choosing not to play basketball as the numbers are down. The overall, I can't explain what that would be, whether it's the volleyball, the switch in the seasons, whatnot, but overall numbers of girls are down. Now the top team, and sometimes you see a huge disparity, these 40, 50-point wins between the good teams and then the other teams.
Right.
And I think that's because there's just not as many girls out there, and the gap is so much bigger. Really, we want as many girls as we can play. It's a great game, great teamwork kind of game. But from what we're hearing is that the numbers are a little lower and the amount of really, really good players are. But, last year, look how many good players we had for that Miss Basketball race.
Right.
So, again, this year, there's still a lot of good players.
Sure.
But the gap, I think, has gotten bigger in some areas.
What do you think will turn that tide?
You know what? You got to start at the younger levels and freshman JV, convincing girls. To be honest with you, when they come out, they end up staying more times than not. Obviously not all the time, but
sure.
when they start coming out, it's such a great game that is getting them out, starting them at the younger levels, not making it too threatening to where it's fun and they want to come back, and it's not live or die if you win or lose. Those types of things will get girls into it because we want to be, research shows if they're involved, they do better in school, they're getting in better shape, they're meeting more people, they're learning to discipline, all that stuff, and whether it's volleyball or basketball or lacrosse or soccer, get involved.
One last question just with reference to this. Dan Young here with BCAM, a longtime coach and has a lot of experience in this field. Do you feel maybe, and I know it's different for everyone, but off-season commitments, preseason commitments, do you feel that sometimes that goes a little overboard and that drives maybe some kids away? They're like, hey, man, I'm not ready to play in college. I want to play in high school, but I don't have my whole summer to give up to you.
Specialization, having to commit all season on whatever it might be, I think has played a huge part in that. Is that, it's tough to play 3 now, even though you still can do it, but you always feel like you're being pulled, and then the kids feel that, and then you feel the stress and the tension, and then they're going to 2 and hopefully not just playing one sport.
Yeah.
But, it's we just got to have more fun and just play as opposed to just.
And do you feel that BCAM can play a role in that with the coaches?
No question.
Yeah.
We educate and try to get we are constantly trying to educate our coaches that playing multiple sports is a positive. It's better for your body. It's better for your longevity as far as having fun, hearing different voices, not being with the same people and same sport and doing the same movements. It's all better. And you talk about people that end up playing at the you talk about all the research. It all shows that the athletes that make it in the long run usually played more than one sport. The specialization, a lot of times they get burnt out. They get sick of it. You hear it all the time. So there's no question that we are always pushing. We're the basketball coaches of Michigan, but we want our guys to play football. We want our girls to play volleyball. We don't want our girls to play both sports and not interlap and not just play soccer and not just play basketball. Obviously, it would help all our sports. And if you get, we want all the best athletes, right?
That's right.
So we want all the best athletes to play. Just think of all the best athletes played.
That's right.
Cool. Everybody would be fired up.
No doubt. All right, let's do it again next week.
Okay, awesome. Thanks again.
All right,
Great
hang
job.
time. We'll be right back.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's. Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for 1 medium pizza at participating locations.
We've been doing this fundraiser for about 4 years, and it's the easiest and best and most profitable fundraiser they have in Michigan.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
All right, guys, welcome back to Hang Time, our final segment. The guys are back in the room, and we want to get to some of your comments. We call it Mailbag. This is something where if you guys reach out to us, we want to answer your questions, concerns, comments. First off, Kurt McGirt on Facebook, and we had a long off-camera discussion on Kurt McGirt. So for those who know who that is, you're laughing hysterically. For those who don't, just
Google it.
There you go. It has a Detroit crime background, comic book. There's all kinds of stuff. So obviously,
but I don't believe this
gentleman was using a pseudonym.
Yeah, right.
It is not his real name. It is not the real Kurt McGirt. Although free from prison, we doubt is communicating with state champs Hang Time. All right, there you go.
Team is one call.
Top to bottom, he wanted to know, is the OAA stronger than the PSL?
Top to bottom, it is.
From OAA Red standpoint, yeah. I mean, you start giving into some of the other OAA Black and all that stuff, then probably not. But
I'm not talking about the blue. I'm just
the
red and the white.
Yeah. Well, OAA Red is up there.
Talk about the PSL East and the OAA Red.
They both have some of the top teams in the state. You know, they both have teams that can win a state championship. If you look at it, East English Village is number 1 in the in the PSL East, and they beat Clarkston. Hazel Park is number 1 in OAA Red, and they want to beat in East English.
Right.
So if you're looking at the weight of that of the OAA Red, being carried by Hazel Park and by Clarkston, then yeah. But do I really think that? To be honest, I think that you take the 0-win teams. Is Depps has probably got to win against Bloomfield Hills or North Farmington, and definitely Southfield A&T this year. I think that Osborne probably also has a win or two. I'm not sure that that Bloomfield Hills, I saw them play Cass and they absolutely got destroyed. I'm not sure that any of those bottom teams can beat them. But as far as the top teams, yeah, the OAA Red is on par, if not, and I think probably better.
So what is the best conference in the state right now?
Hey, I think you got to go with you got one team ranked number 2 and you got one team ranked number 3, and that's Hazel Park and that's Clarkston, and they're both in the OAA Red.
You can't look past Troy or West Bloomfield.
So the OAA Red right now is the class of the state.
That's what I'd be interested to see a Troy in the PSL and see how they would fare. To see a West Bloomfield in the PSL and see how they would fare. I think the OAA Red this year, it's good. Things are going to change once guys like Foster Lawyer and Taylor Curry leave, Carl Bowe and David Hearns leave. But I think for this year, I think the OAA Red. And if you
look in some of the in over the last 10 years, let's say when Carlton Brundage is at Southfield, I think every team outside of I think every team in the league except for Troy has made it to the semifinal or final.
The OA Red,
not including Hazel Park because they weren't in the league.
The OA Red.
James Young didn't stay at Troy. That might have
and he
helped.
never played in the red.
Right.
Yeah, they were playing
his whole 4 years of high school. He played in the white.
Right.
They played in the white.
The orange.
But a quick stat: 7 of the last 9 years, the OAA Red has placed a team in the Final Four.
Yeah, and last year they had 2 teams with Clarkston and West Bloomfield. So that's that obviously speaks volumes. I mean, the PSL, they pretty much have to pluck everybody off. They're never going to get 2 teams in the semifinals. They're done with that. They're saying we're just going to filter everybody out. You guys aren't bringing enough fans, or however they want to figuring everything out when they do the brackets. But why everybody is playing at Detroit Western this year? I mean, when you've got East English Village that's going all the way down to Western, when you've got teams like the Taylor teams or other teams that are closer, most of the downriver teams, they can easily go over there and play at Western. It's a lot more convenient, and why I think Grosse Pointe South is going to Detroit Western too. They're like, well, why do you pick on us? Why do we always get stuck playing in the PSL? We're never going to win a district. I mean, you look at their banners. There are no banners. For winning any championships and stuff like that. So
what I would like to see, kind of take a page out of what they do in college. Maybe have a PSL OAA challenge at the start of every year, like they do with the ACC Big Ten Challenge, and at least in the OA Red.
You can definitely do that over the holidays for sure.
And, take the top 5
teams. But you've got that 20-game limit, right? And that's usually what ends up. Holding that up.
What I've always thought is,
but I like it.
They did something like that in the 90s where it was kind of called like a city suburb where they did it at Joe Louis or
in
Cobo.
the old days they did that a lot when it came to
but it wasn't league versus league.
Like, the what do you call it, the PSL champ, Catholic champ,
Operation
Friendship.
Operation Friendship. That's where I was going with that. I like that, and if they were to expand on that, for just like the Friday before the playoffs start, and just everybody, it's an exhibition. Nobody's going to really give it their all because the playoffs start on Monday, but it'd be kind of a fun showcase, I guess, to see.
A lot of teams, they want to, in the PSL, they've got a schedule for 20 games. They've got a schedule all the way up to play that 20th game in the Operation Friendship. Well, if you lose in the semifinals or you lose in the quarterfinals of the PSL game, the PSL championships, then you've got 3 or 4 games to fill. The same thing as can be said with the Catholic League.
Right.
And so a lot of times they'll play in, you'll see Pershing that'll go play at Catholic Central. And a lot of times those games aren't on the schedule because they're put together 3 or 4 days ahead of time. Hey, send me over that contract and boom, boom.
Yep.
And they'll just go out there and just to fill up the 20 games. And a lot of those guys have built up a rapport over years. They know each other.
Yeah.
So, it's good. One thing that the Macomb County, the MAC, Macomb County's top
Macomb
league.
Athletic.
Yeah. They played the Catholic League at Callahan Hall the first Sunday of the year.
Yeah.
And that was this year. The problem is they go back to what your record was last year, and so if you lose somebody, then it doesn't necessarily pair up the same way. I think maybe De La Salle and New Haven played each other to start the year, which was a pretty good, a good matchup.
Right.
Problem was De La Salle just got done playing football.
Right.
So it is what it is.
The Catholic League Central this year is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, we don't have the superpower that UDJ has been recently, but they're still really nice. And getting Jalen Thomas back obviously helps. And then Catholic Central, De La Salle, and Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Brother Rice they're 3-9, but that's when I've seen them play, that's a good 3-9 team. They got a really nice sophomore in John Brantley. But I don't really put them in the mix. I'm talking about those top 4.
Yeah.
Catholic Central's, there's like 10 of the same players. They're all like 6'5", 6'6". They're all long and they can all shoot.
And that's another big game for Tuesday night. Which with UD Jesuit traveling to Orchard Lake St. Mary's. And I think De La Salle goes and plays at Catholic Central. Yeah. Or if they don't, they play in the very near future.
UDJ beat Orchard Lake on like the final possession the first time they played.
Yep.
In Jonathan Gilbert on Twitter is a fan of McBain. And originally when we got his question, he felt that McBain should be in your Class C rankings. You have them there now, and you have them 7th.
Yeah, like a mind reader. McBain's had some solid teams in the past. I'm looking at Class C, and I'm saying, all right, there are enough other teams out there where I just didn't really see where they could squeeze in there when you've got Calvin Christian, Covenant Christian, you've got Beecher Pershing. They do have some solid wins this year, highlighted by Buckley. They beat them by 1 point. And then they also had, more recently, a nice win over Manton, who I think could be a sleeper in Class C. But I think that's one of that win right there kind of made me start realizing, all right, I need to pay attention to this team. Then they won a few games since that time period in mid January. And yeah, they're very much deserving. I mean, if you're going out there and you're winning games, you're winning the games that you're supposed to win. You're defending home, and then you add a couple of games over wins with over ranked teams. Then yeah, that's deserved, and yeah, they definitely moved up. And I mean I think that needs to be the trend.
By the way, if you want to see TJ's rankings, they are at statechampsnetwork.com. Just click on rankings. And you'll be able to see those each and every week. We've got hockey rankings, and Tom handles girls basketball.
Yep.
So it's all right there for you, and we feel that we do it better than anybody else.
Right.
So.
And that's where our last question for the mailbag comes from. Tony Marshall wants to know why Grand Rapids Catholic Central is still ranked ahead of Godwin Heights. So I'll leave that one to TJ.
I wasn't impressed with Godwin Heights lost to Forest Hill Central.
Okay.
I think Forest Hill Central, they've only got 1 or 2 losses now. And so I think that they're one of those teams where they're now for real. I think Coach Elliott is doing a fantastic job. His son is really emerging, one of the better shooters in the state as a senior. And so, yeah, I think that could Godwin be ranked higher than Catholic Central? I just looked at, Catholic Central lost at Godwin. Godwin was supposed to win that game. Mm-hmm. Godwin's a tough place to play. I mean, they probably averaged wins by 20, 30 points, if not yet.
Right.
So I would look at Catholic Central. Are they going to play at a neutral site? Is it going to be something that's different? I just looked at the loss with the Forest Hill Central as the knock on Godwin. Can that change this week? Godwin's got a pretty tough game that's coming up at a nice showcase in Grand Rapids.
Right.
When they have, they've got a pretty good game. They play Detroit Pershing.
Yeah.
All right.
So should be a pretty good neutral site game.
There we go.
All right. Well, we want to thank our sponsors, Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser, BCAM, the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan. We're going to cut this one short right now because Scott Burnstein has got to go over to Fanatic U to get his Blake Griffin jersey. Nice. He has just been pining for it. So That's where he'll be headed. No, we'll see you guys out there. And again, next week we've got a lot to talk about. So we'll be here all season long. We'll break it down all the way through what happens at the Breslin. So everything's just going to get ramped up, amped up from here on out.
The thick of it, right?
Yeah,
the
again,
the nitty gritty.
If you want to talk to us, do it on Facebook, do it on Twitter. You can go to our website and our contact page. You can email us, contact us at statechampsnetwork.com. And maybe we'll talk about it right here on Hang Time. We'll see you next week.